Good afternoon. Are you ready? Okay, so let's go. Oh, thanks. And I will first use a time machine, and I will go back in time, and I will stop in the 50s, long time ago. Okay, so, and you will see appearing here a gentleman that I'm pretty sure that you won't recognize him. No? Even if I show his name. Chester Carlson used to be the head of the research and development of a small company called Alloy, and he came with this machine. It was the first machine able to reproduce documents by dry mechanisms without water, without ink, without wetting. And they tried to put that on the market, and it was not very successful. Why? Because this product was too expensive. And so most of the consulting firms suggested to go back in their lab and to start again with, and to come with a new product. And somebody came and said, well, maybe we could rent this machine, and we could try to give this machine for free in a way, and then rent it, and it was 25 plus a couple of cents for the additional copies. And you know the end of the story. It became Xerox, huge company, 20 billion company. I will take again my time machine, and I will come back, and I will stop in 97. And I'm sure that you will recognize those two fellows. Correct? Yes. Google founder. In this case, the situation was not exactly the same. The product was not too expensive, but too cheaper, okay, because it was for free. And so they had to invent something, and so they have been inspired by the television model, and they say, okay, we could have this idea of advertisement, and they came with the contextual advertisement, double-sided market, and so on. And again, you know the end of the story. It became a huge company, 40 billion company. My question for you is, what do both examples have in common? And I will suggest three answers, if you will. The first one is they don't focus on product innovation alone. They try to empower those product innovation, the machine or the Google search engine, through a business model. That's the first one. The second one, they didn't simply copy from competitors. They invented something new. They came with a new business model. And third, they had to take some risk. So it was impossible to prove before that it will be a success. And based on those three questions, I will come with the structure of this talk. In the first part, I will try to see what's behind product, then behind copying competitors, and I will try to deal with this idea of designing a business model. Or is it possible to apply design techniques, but to business model for designing business model? And three, I will try to show some techniques maybe and try to convince you that it's possible to test the business model before executing this business model, before launching the company or the startup. Okay, that's the program for the next 40 minutes. And in fact, it's not easy for me to know your expectation because you are very numerous in this room, and so it was difficult for me to anticipate. But from my side, what I would like to avoid is this phenomenon. Okay? So I would like to try to avoid this, and for doing it, if you agree, we will play in 10 minutes, we will play a game together. Okay, so now, start first, what's the business model for me and for us, and with Alex that you have seen at the beginning. And we could try with a first exercise. Think 2 minutes, what could be for you a business model? And if you think, what's your feeling about the business model, I'm sure that here in this room, you are maybe 500 or 600, we will come with at least 50 different definitions. It's not a big issue because you don't have to work together. But if you are in the same company and you try to discuss and what could be my first or my next business model, you have to work together with people coming with different backgrounds from operations, marketing, strategy, finance, and so on. And it's very difficult to share a common language. And the idea for the suggestion I will propose you was to come with a common language, a language that it's possible to use together for designing together this business model or the next business models or some alternatives for my future business model. And the second thing we wanted to have and to come with was to avoid this phenomena that we are in a room, we chat about business model, but it's in a way it's only blah blah. We wanted to have something which is visual that could be used for working together and to designing this business model together. It was our objective. Short video.
Great ideas have always shaped our world. Entrepreneurs turn them into businesses, generate enormous wealth for the economy and society, and sometimes even solve some of humanity's greatest problems along the way. And great ideas come from almost anywhere. In fact, you may be working with a great idea for a business yourself, whether you're an entrepreneur or an executive striving to help your company grow. But for every great idea that has shaped our world, there are thousands of seemingly great ideas that have flopped. That's because no business idea can succeed without a great business model, and they're not the same thing. Once your idea meets the world, it will meet customers. If they don't care about the problem your idea solves for them, it's game over. But even if customers love your value proposition, you can fail if your business model is not scalable and financially sustainable. You'll need to find the right channels to reach and acquire your customers. You'll need to build an infrastructure that won't collapse as your business begins to grow. Failing to do just one of these things can mean death to your business, however great your idea is. But what if this world of challenges could be tamed and organized, so that you could easily explore it, manage it, and plan for it? What if there was a tool that could help you with this challenge, simply, visually, and powerfully? A tool to help you map, analyze, and evaluate the elements required to turn an idea, product, or technology into a business, giving you instant clarity and better strategic conversations. What if this tool was combined with a process to help you in your search for a scalable and profitable business model, making it easier to run cheap tests, track iterations, and perform pivots through a series of potential...
Okay, and so now I will try in the next 5 minutes to present you the 9 components of what we consider a business model is. And this canvas, this visual canvas, could be used for describing, for challenging, for critiquing, for assessing business models. And I will do it, and I try to illustrate the different concepts with the company of this fellow. Do you know him? No? If I show his name, Guy Laliberté? Yes? Okay, Circus of the Sun. Circus of the Sun, I think that you know this company. Who knows the company? At least because you have seen the shows at the television? Okay. I will use this, so it's a circus activity. So the first component of a business model is the customer you target, for which you will deliver the product, the services that you want to. In the case of the circus, is it the old people? Not necessarily. Is it the kids with the family? Yeah? If you think, raise your hands. In this case, yes, you have the feeling that the traditional circus is mainly done for children, parents, and family. And yet the idea that maybe people which are more comfortable in concerts or in opera or theater could be a good public and good customers for this new activity that he wanted to launch a couple of years ago. And so he came with this idea that it's possible to have the theater and opera visitors as the main target for their business. The second block, the second component is what we call the value proposition. So it means the services, the product that you will offer to your customers. In this case, it's a traditional circus. It's not so traditional. He tried to come with a product a little bit different, and he came with this idea that it's possible to offer something which is a little bit more like a musical comedy. And also, he removed some traditional features of the circus. He decided to have a circus without any animals. Okay, and so he came with this new value proposition, a new offer for this kind of customers, which are some, I call here singular theme show without animal, and also without stars. You don't know the name of the artist performing during the show. The third component is the way of delivering the value proposition and the way of reaching your customers. It's what we call the distribution channels. So it means the way for reaching the customers. In this case, it's the main channels, it's both internet and also the traditional ticketing offices. The fourth component is what we call the customer relationship. So it means the nature of the relationship you want to keep with your customers. If you are retailers, most of your customers are anonymous because you enter the shop, you buy something, you leave. But if you buy a luxury watch and you come in the shop and it's your third one or fourth one, you are very well known. So it means that please come in, Mr. Pigneur, please have a seat, or are the kids or are the family. So it's a very customized relationship. And in the middle you have, for example, Amazon. They have a kind of customized relationship because of this technology mechanism that they use for recommending different things. Also think, for example, the telecom operators, mobile telecom operators. At the beginning, they want to acquire a lot of customers. The relationship with the customers are, I would like to attract you. And a couple of years later, they switch a little bit, and the nature of the relation is a little. The nature of the relationship is a little bit different because they want to keep you, and so they switch from an acquisition relationship to a retention one. That's the customer relationship. And the fifth component is the revenue stream. So it means, you make money with your value proposition that you deliver through the channel to the customers. And we have different mechanisms. In this case, it's mainly ticketing in the Circus of the Sun, but high-priced. And it's not 20, 30, but it's maybe 200 tickets because they had this idea that it's possible to attract people going to the concerts, opera, and theater, which are ready to pay 200 to have a nice show, and that's the reason why they could have pricing mechanisms a little bit higher than the traditional circus. That's for the right and the right end part of this schema, of this Canva. And now you need to have something to be able to operate. So it's backstage, you need different things. The first one is the tools. So it means the key resources you need to have to be able to operate, to deliver the value proposition to the customers. Okay, in this case, the main characteristics, the main resources, the main capabilities that the circus have developed is two different things. They have 20 different shows in parallel, on the road or in fixed installations. And so it means that they need to have a scalable organization, an organization which is able to scale up because it's not only one show but many of them in parallel. And the second one, they need to have some artistic capabilities because you need to have musical talents, you need to have choreographic talents, you need to have athletic but also artistic feeling and atmosphere that you have to generate during your shows. When you have something, you need to be able to do something. It's the main processes or the main activities that your company need to have to be able to offer the value proposition to the customers. The main activities, not the small one, the big processes, the big activities you need to have. In this case, it's clear in the Circus of the Sun, it's clear that you have to operate those shows and you have to perform those shows. So it's the operation and logistics, and you have also to produce those different shows. But there is a third one, which is absolutely necessary thing. They have 4,000 people, and at least 2,000 are artists and athletes. And so it means that for them it's key to be able to recruit people in permanent. So this activity of recruiting talents, it's an activity that recruits a lot of resources and costs a lot because they have to recruit worldwide. Some of those activities or some of those key resources you don't have. It could be possible that you don't have, and so sometimes it's necessary to make some alliances or to have some partnerships and to have some good partners able to or provide me with those resources or to be able to operate. And for example, for recruiting the talents, it's necessary to have agents in different countries in the world. And also they have, for example, Las Vegas, which is very important for them because they have 2 or 3 shows in permanent at this location. And the last component is the cost. So it means that all those left-hand side has a cost. And what you hope is the difference between the revenue and the cost is in the good direction, with normally a revenue higher than your cost. So that's the model. The different components and the different what we call building blocks of this model. And we kept those blocks and we put a Canva on it. We removed the different logos and stuff, and that's the canvas that we are using for designing business model. And and here, in the case of the Circus of the Sun, you have the different components that I briefly mentioned during this first introduction. Okay. And so when you have this, you can discuss, you can change something, it's in front of you on the table or in the wall, and you can work, you can add some new value propositions, some new components with a new revenue, you could add something without revenue, and so it could be the basis for designing and for critiquing, for assessing the different business model. Okay, when you have this Canva, you can use it. That's the idea. We wanted to have something which is not only the definitions of the different concepts, but something that we could use. And in different settings, on table, on the wall, and in this setting. My challenge now is to design with you a business model. It's very ambitious because you are 500 in this room, and we will see how we will proceed. Before that, I will ask you some first question. The question is the following one. Do you have an idea of how much is the cost of home coffee consumption change for Swiss households over the last couple of years? Say 10 years. 10 years ago, we consumed, say, 100 Swiss francs. In 2012, do you have an idea? And we will consider that inflation was 0. It's easier, it's Switzerland. Okay, so you have an idea of how much we consume. The budget for an household is only for the coffee. Raise your hand if you think that it's less than 50% more. So 150 Swiss francs per year if you want. Okay, and raise your hand if you think that it's more than 50% over this 100. Do you think that it double? No. Yes? Some of them. Okay. In fact, it has been multiplied by 6 or 8, between 6 or 8 depending. Okay, so it means that we spend 6 or 7 or 800 Swiss francs just for the coffee at home. Why? Because of this phenomenon. Why? Because a capsule is 40 cents, and the same amount of coffee 10 years ago was 4 or 5 cents. Okay, big difference. Okay. The objective now is to describe the Nespresso business model. And so it's up to you. Okay, so since you don't have the Canva, some students, I think, will distribute Canvas to all of you, or at least one Canva for 2 people. Okay, so you will have in front of you this Canva that I show you, okay, and you will work on this Canva. The problem is, if we have just the Canva in front of you, you have to discuss a long time just to find the right distribution channel, customers, and this kind of things. And so I put also some labels with stickers, and you have, I think, 9 or 10 stickers in front of you, and you have just to remove the sticker and to put that at the right place on the business model Canva. And so you will do it 2 by 2, and so you will discuss during 5 minutes, and in 5 minutes, I need to have in front of me 300 canvas with all the labels on it. And so you will design this business model very shortly, and it will be a kind of practice, if you want, or practical exercise, just to have the feeling that what does it mean to design a business model. You don't have the labels for the value proposition. I already put them for you. So you have the machine that you could have at home, and you have the capsules or the pods. And in place to have just words in front of you, I draw the different components. And so the exercise is quite simple. You have just to take one and to say, oh, yes, I think this represents the customers. Or, oh, yes, I think this one represents the revenues. And we have 2 kinds of revenues. And, okay, and this one represents one of the key resources which is absolutely indispensable to have, because without these resources, it's very difficult to operate and to offer coffee to households. Okay, and now we have just 5 minutes. It's very quick, so you have to go quick, and in 5 minutes I will stop and we will try to share. I have already put here on the screen, you have only labels for the other 8 components. So you have to find the customers, you have to find the distribution channels, the resources, the main activities. Okay, please come back. So you have designed your first business model. I'm kidding. So you have designed the first business model with the canvas, and I will just pass through the different components. Maybe you have some different interpretation, but it could be similar to what you will discover here. So the 2 main customers are both households and offices. And by the way, I don't know if you have observed, but in some offices the capsules are different. It's flat capsules, and at home it's a triangle one, a conic one. And the reason why they introduced that a little bit later, it was not at the beginning, it was because some of the employees in some countries, not in Singapore, took the capsules at the office and used it at home because it was the same machine. And so the companies asked them to switch and to have different capsules and different machines for sure, one specially dedicated to the offices and one for home. The distribution channel, initially for the machine, it was the retailer, okay? The retailer, the big retailer like Carrefour or 7-Eleven or Migros in Switzerland. And for the capsules, it used to be the mail order and the call center. And they stay at least 5 or 10 years with this kind of configuration. And more recently, when they have seen that the e-commerce came, it it has been possible to order online. And they came with this e-commerce solution with the Nespresso website. And much more recently, and I think here in Singapore, maybe less than 2 years ago, they have introduced dedicated shop under their own brand, Nespresso shop that you have here. And I think now they have at least 100 different Nespresso shops in different big cities. The customer relationship is very dedicated. So it means they try, even if they are in the retailing activity, they try to keep a very personalized relationship with the customers. When you bought a machine, you receive 5 kilos of documentation, and you are a member of the club and this kind of things. Select. The revenue models is both. You have first, when you buy the machine, it's one time a revenue, but when you buy the capsules, it's recurrent revenue because it comes every week, every month, every 2 months. So it's a huge revenue for them. It's the main one, comes from the capsules. The key resources are at least 3 different things. First, the patents. They have a lot of patents just for this machine and the capsule. Something like 270 patents. And in some countries, in France, Switzerland, even in UK now, they are on court because they have competitors coming with different capsules that's possible to put inside the Nespresso machine. And they have also the manufacturing, not for the machine, but for the capsules. They produce millions of capsules every day. The main activities are distribution, marketing, and by the way, it's the first time that Nestlé used a distribution which is a B2C, business to consumer relationship. So it means that Nestlé sells directly to the consumers, to the customers. And they need to have a strategic partner because they don't manufacture the machine, the coffee machines. So they make some big agreements with some other existing manufacturing electronic devices and so on. And so for them it's key to have those partners. And they kept the manufacturing of the capsules. And the cost is related to the different activities. So the result was the fastest growing business in the Nestlé groups, 30% in the last 12 years. And it's a 3 billion business with only one product line. So it's spectacular, but it used to be a startup 20 years ago. And it's clear that Nespresso changed the business model for espresso because they switched for the first time from B2B distribution to a B2C, at least for Nestlé. That's true. But you have to keep in mind that in 1987, Nespresso almost failed. It was almost a bankruptcy. And they had exactly the same product. It was a capsule, it was the coffee machine, exactly the same product. They had already the partnerships with the manufacturing companies. But they had a different business model at that time because Nestlé was in the B2B commerce, in the B2B activity, and so they had decided to have a channel, a joint venture with the machine manufacturers for offering the coffee to the different offices. Okay, those selling to company, and this company will sell to the customers. And this business model almost failed. So we will keep this in mind, that it's possible that we have to innovate not only by the product and the services, but also by the business model that we have around this product or these services. Though the next question is, how is it possible to design a business model and to come with good solution? And here we have to take into consideration what have been proposed in the previous keynote is the design thinking. Design thinking for me is something between purely intuitive thinking, artist, and analytical thinking means decision-making process, which is quite clear in business. We know that we have to decide. And we will keep that in mind. Business people don't just need to understand designers better, they need to become designer. In my case, I would like to be designer of business model, which is one among the different business objects that we could use, such as the processes that we have seen before in the hospital. So the second part is about design thinking. I will just briefly make a detour. Do you know this gentleman? Even I show this building in Hong Kong, or this one in Europe, Guggenheim Museum, no, Opus building. So it's Frank Gehry. And Frank Gehry is an architect. And we will see, if you observe Frank Gehry working, you will see that, okay, he decides something because he will design the building. But before deciding, he used different techniques, sketching the building, and also coming with different sketches, okay, different one, and also he used mock-ups, prototypes if you want. He comes with different ones, okay, a small one, big one, different scales, different shapes, different material, and finally he comes with this building, or building, in this case the business school of Cleveland. And so it means that he comes with different alternatives. So we will keep in mind that it's interesting to come with not only deciding what's the business model that you will keep, but first trying to generate different alternatives, different ideas with different possibilities. I will switch this video, and we will keep those two messages, because if you freeze an idea too quickly, you fall in love with it. And if you refine too quickly, you become attached to it. So it means that for us, at the business model level, we need to be able to generate different and to prototype different business models using the canvas that you have used. And different techniques could be used on canvas paper, big canvas on the wall, using computer. Different techniques are possible. And we have to keep in mind, it doesn't depend on the support, but the canvas is a good way for representing those different alternatives, those different prototypes. And you have to be ready to throw away many different ideas. Okay? So it means that you don't have to be attached too quickly with the first idea you have based on maybe the product that you have designed or the innovation that you have created. You don't have sun.
So don't fall in love with your first idea. To compete in a world where the best model wins, you'll need to think harder and explore alternatives. For example, prototype a model where you ask yourself what would happen if you gave away your value proposition for free. This will instantly change everything. You might not find this model realistic, but exploring it will force you to think hard.
Okay, and so we will, yeah, Alex is there, we'll switch. And the second message is, we have the prototype, we have maybe different canvas in front of us, we discussed, we investigated different one. Maybe it could be necessary to test it before. Why? Because, okay, we know that based on this business model, it could be possible to have the business plan. But even if you took time to generate some alternatives, when you have a business model in front of you, even if you took time to consider and to design it very carefully, it's a set of hypotheses. Why? Because we know for sure that no business plan survives the first contact with the customers. Okay? So it means that when the business model might look great, it's only a set of hypotheses. Okay? You have in front of you the business model of Nespresso 12 years ago. At that time, it was a set of hypotheses. And those hypotheses, the ideal solution is to test those hypotheses. Why? Because the normal or the usual way of proceeding is, okay, I have a business model, I translate it in a business plan, and I launch the company, and I try to survive and to discover the customers and so on. The suggestion here is to reverse the process, if you want. Okay, so to go outside the building before to launch the company, before to create the startup, before to create the company. That's the idea. What does it mean? It means that, okay, you have those hypotheses based on the business plan, the business model that you have in mind, and you will go out testing something, okay, asking questions, trying to convince customers to pay you before, this kind of thing, different technique that you could develop, and iterate before launching the company. Why? Because only when should you build your company or launch a project, else you risk to burn a great amount of money. And I will just show you a very short typical example. You know, this device is a mobile device that has been created by Qualcomm. They have decided that mobile TV on demand is clearly a good product a couple of years ago. And so they decide and they execute everything. It means that they bought the license, they build the infrastructure, they made some contracts with big content providers, they manufacture the device, everything. They launch a product, they launch a service. 6 months after, they discontinued. They say, oh no, stop. The customers are not there. And they spend 800 million just for this experience in a way, because they launched a project. They never had in mind that it could be possible too early, too late, or I don't know which reason. It was only based on an hypothesis that the market is ready for this kind of product at that time, based on what they have observed, and also based on the consultancy activity that they received from different big firms at that time. This is a short example, just for illustrating prototyping, but also testing. This example is in the solar industry. And Jigger showed this intuition a couple of years ago. He said, okay, I know what kind of customers are potentially interested in the panel, the solar panels. These customers are the big retailers and the big shopping malls. Why? Because they have the cold storage, they have the fridge. Second, it's a high energy bill, especially if you have some countries with the sun, like here, or in the United States, some different places. Third, most energy is used between 10 and 4, if you want. So it means when the sun is there. So it's good as a complement to the normal energy providing system. And so he decided, okay, I have a good idea. It's my business, my next business idea. And he came with a business model. The business model was clear. I will sell solar panel to mid or large organizations, retailers and big shopping malls using a sales force. I will have the revenue from this. I need to have some resources, but I have those resources because I'm a specialist in this activity. I have patents, I have experts. I have the 2 different activities, customer acquisition, installing panels, and I asked to big manufacturing firm, MEMS, in the United States to produce those panels. But he came with, why don't the retail stores and shopping centers switch to solar energy? And he created a second prototype. Why? Because it's too expensive for them. Why? Because they need to have good financial numbers every 6 months or every 3 months. And with this solution, they have to invest for something like 10 years. And okay, it will be cheaper, but 10 years later. So he said, no, I will offer those panels for free. Okay, that's good. And so he threw away his first idea, if you want, his first prototype, and he created a second business model. This business model is based on this idea. Okay, I will offer them the panels on their roof for free, and I will sign a contract with them, a power purchase agreement with them on a long-term basis, 10 years, for example, which is quite usual in the energy field. And he adapted his business model with this fundamentally different way of visualizing this model with a sales force. And so in this case, he said, okay, I have a good idea. It's my second idea, my second prototype. And he went out because he think that he's not sure. And the customers say, yes, good, go ahead. I'm ready to have these panels on my roof and to sign with you a long-term contract. But in the same time, since he gives the panel for free, he had to convince the finance people to fund the company and to finance the company. And it tried, and he go out and he tried to convince them, and they say, wow, not sure, there are some other instruments much better for us. No, forget this idea, go back. Oh, And so he had a very genius idea. He came with 3 prototypes, but a third one. The third one was based on an interaction he had with the customers and also some kind of funding partners. And so he said, okay, I will take those power purchasing agreement, split in different components, just like shares, and I will consider that the VCs are no more VCs, they are my customers. They internalize the funding part inside the business model of the company. So he created a value proposition, low risk investment, because the contracts are on the long term. And so using the financial institution as a distribution channel, he reached the institutional and private investors with another different revenue models, completely different, based on the investment fees and the development monitoring fees. And he adjusted the left-hand side of this business model. And this third iteration came to this result, that it was the largest provider of solar panel and power in the United States. In 2 years, he sold his startup for $200 million to a huge solar panel manufacturing company, MEMS. And last year, it was a $400 million company, a turnover company. That's the story, and we will finish with this short interview with Steve Blank.
Entrepreneur
We came with this idea
popularized the lean startup movement. So my last question is for business owners out there who are struggling, trying to figure out how to adapt to this new world that we're in. What do you advise them to do?
You know, we now know something that we didn't know 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. And we now know how to make companies fail less. If I'm a small business owner, I want to go, say that again? How do we make it fail less? And the real key idea that I'm trying to get the SBA to even understand, because if you look at the SBA.gov website, here's where we've gone wrong. You know what they say to, if you want to start a company? Go write a business plan. It's truly, on the SBA.gov website, it looks like the 1950s.
That's the old way of doing
things. Right,
things.
that's the old way of doing things. What we now know, and what I think we need to be teaching small businesses, well, we now know what works for the 1%. The high growth tech startups work for the 99%. The same strategy of actually using a business model canvas, of using customer development to get outside the building, to rapidly prototype and test every assumption you have before you pour your money into execution. We now have processes where we didn't know how to do this.
Okay, this is the last message, and so we have seen this idea. Design a business model. We have a canvas, a practical tool that you can use for designing. Second, this idea of design techniques. Among them, one is very important, the idea of prototyping, coming with different alternatives before deciding. And the third one is testing before to launch a company. That's, I think, something that we could apply, and I hope for you in the next business of